it's December 16th, 2025, and we're studying the Nectar Devotion, Vyavicharibhav, Part 1, which is chapters 29 to 30 in the Nectar Devotion. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskachade Satarane Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Panchakalpachubhisha Kripasindhavya Vachapatitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo. And one thing that I was really meditating on today is how Srila Prabhupada finished the Nectar Devotion in 1969. 1969. So before even finishing the Bhagavatam. Okay. So we're studying the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the nectar ocean which conquers death of rasa, of Bhakti rasa, the pleasure or taste, relationship, juice of Bhakti. And the Southern Ocean, of course, has these 5 parts. Vibhava, the causes of ecstasy, which we discuss as the alambana, the basic, which is Krishna as the Vishaya, the devotees as the Ashraya, the stimulants, which are the Udipanas, Anubhava, the voluntary expressions, Sattvic Bhava, the involuntary expressions, what we're going to be doing today and tomorrow, the Vyavichari Bhava, or sometimes called the Sanchari Bhava, the various emotions, the temporary moving emotions, and then Staibhav, the permanent ecstatic mood, the continuous ecstasy, and one needs all 5 in order to relish transcendental bliss. So this is the 4th wave of the Southern Ocean, which we've divided into 2 parts. So this first part is chapters 29 to 30, which is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 2, 4, 1 to 90. So 2 is the second ocean, the Southern Ocean, 4 is the 4th wave, verses 1 to 190. All right, so everything ultimately is on the Staibhav, the basic relationship stimulated by the Vibhav, which then manifests in Anubhav and Sattvic Bhav, and is also acted upon by the Vyavichari Bhav to produce rasa. Or we first have the basic relationship, which is stimulated, resulting in voluntary expressions, involuntary expressions, acted on by various emotions to bring taste. Okay, the Vyavichari Bhavs, again also called Sanchari Bhavs. This is our basic definition of a Vyavichari Bhav. They're waves of emotion that arise from, agitate, and return to the ocean of the Staibhav. So if we think of the Staibhav, the basic relationship with Krishna, we've given many examples of this. So let's say your basic relationship with Krishna is parental. You think of Krishna as your child. And then you hear from the other boys that Krishna fought with a demon. And so you feel anxiety. So that anxiety comes from your parental relationship. It agitates your parental relationship. And then it goes back into it, and it's not there anymore. Then when you see Krishna is safe and he's happy, that anxiety's gone. It's not there anymore. So this is a Vyavichari Bhav. And of course, this exists in our ordinary relationships in this world. Right? So today, right after the class, I'm going to a wedding. So I have a feeling of friendship with the bride. And I'm sure that at the wedding, there'll be wonder, there will be joy, right? So that I don't always feel wonder in relationship to her. It's it's coming. Of course, Srila Rupa Goswami says there's some wonder or astonishment in every rasa, but that will come out of the ocean of the friendship. It will move the friendship. That's why it's called a Vyavichari or a Sanchari Bhav. It moves it. Prabhupada calls it aggressive ecstasy. And then again, it goes back to friendship. Okay, so chapter 29. So Srila Rupa Goswami lists 33 emotional experiences that come from and flavor a devotee's basic relationship with Krishna. And this chapter covers the first 13. So they're called Vyavichari Bhavs since they move charanti against the sthai bhav while assisting it. They're moving against it while assisting it. So they're pushing, as Prabhupada says again, they're aggressive ecstasies. They're aggressive ecstasies. So I was having prasadam with my granddaughter and her family yesterday, and my granddaughter's husband likes to play music during prasadam. And I've told him I like some of the music. He plays the same music over and over again every day. And I've told him that some of the music I like and some I do not like. So he's made some adjustment. But yesterday during prasadam, one of the things he was playing I didn't like. And I said, yeah, this one. So I was feeling annoyance. So generally, my relationship with him is parental. He's my grandson-in-law, so it's parental, but there's a mixture of friendship. So it's parental mixed with friendship, primarily parental, but also a mixture of friendship. However, when I heard that song, I felt annoyed. So that annoyance was kind of like pushing against the parental and friendship, but it was also assisting it, that I could express my annoyance, that he could look at it and say, oh, how come this annoys you? What would you rather hear? And so forth. So that, and then he made a change and he put on something else. And then my annoyance was gone. My annoyance was gone, and I felt peacefulness. I felt satisfaction. So those were various emotions that I felt that they were pushing against the parental and friendship and helping it, both the so-called happy emotions and the so-called unhappy emotions. They were all nourishing the basic relationship, right? If you have just a basic relationship without any moving emotions, then it's not going to be ecstatic. It's going to be just static. Okay, since they set in motion the course of the sthai bhav, they're also called sanchari bhavs. So here we have vyavachari. They're charanti, they're moving against the sthai bhav while they assist it, and sanchari, they're setting in motion the course of the sthai bhav. They're, again, we have this charanti, they're moving it, they're assisting it. So all of these, all the Vyavichari or Sanchari bhavs, they rise and fall like waves in the sweet ocean of the sthai bhav, which again, Srila Rupa Goswami also calls Rati. Rati means love. Rati is also the name of the wife of Cupid, the wife of Pradyumna. So sometimes Rati is used just to mean romantic love, but Rati means love in general, any kind of love. I mean, Krishna talks about that we should all have Atmarati. We should all have love for ourselves. So Rati in the Sai Bhav, what kind of love do you have? So all of these Vyavichari Bhavs rise and fall like waves in the sweet ocean of the Sthai Bhav or the Rati, increase the Sthai Bhav, and then merge into the Sthai Bhav. Right? So, the gopis, they have the Madhurya Bhav, the romantic relationship with Krishna, that's their Sthai Bhav. And if Krishna says, I'm going to meet you in the evening at this place, and he doesn't show up, then they're going to be concerned. They're going to feel various other emotions. They're going to feel concern. Maybe they're going to feel annoyed. If they think it's not Krishna's fault, they're going to feel concern. Maybe it's going to go all the way up to worry. Maybe it's going to go all the way up to fear. If they think it is his fault, then they're going to feel annoyance. They may feel indignation. How can he not come? How dare he not come? They may feel disappointment. They may feel transcendental jealousy. Oh, maybe Krishna's with another girl. What's he doing with the other girl? So all of these emotions, those emotions end up kind of, they're adding to their staibov of their romantic relationship, but they become the prominent thing that they're feeling at the time. So they're nourishing that romantic relationship, but they're going back into it again. And there may be, as we'll discuss tomorrow, one comes and supplants the other, one is added to the other, there's one coming, just like with our emotions in this world. Something instigates it, it comes, it stays, it dissipates, other things are added to it. One emotion can cause another, one emotion can be under another. We have a whole analysis of this tomorrow. But all of these are, they're increasing the staibhav. So the feeling of romantic love for Krishna that the gopis have, it's being increased by all these emotions, but these emotions are also kind of pushing against the staibhav and moving this staibhav and changing it and then falling back into it. And there's constantly various vyabhichari bhavs constantly coming and going, just like in any of our relationships. So the emotions of the staibhav, they mix with the devotee's rati and create a sense of sattva. So remember, we were talking about also yesterday, this state of sattva is coming from the vibhav. So the vibhav is hitting the staibhav. The vibhav as Krishna, the Vishayi, Ashraya, the devotees who have a similar relationship, the various udipanas, they're all hitting against the staibhav and stimulating it. And also then the vyabhichari bhavs are mixing with the devotee staibhavs. And all of this creates a state of sattva. And sattva produces the sattvika bhavs and the anubhavs, or both. So due to this sattva in the heart, therefore our behavior manifests voluntary and involuntary. We don't have vibhavs in this chart. There's only so many things I can put in a slide, I suppose. So we don't have the vibhavs in this chart. We'd have to have vibhav in order to fully have this chart show rasa. So here we have the emotions of the vyabhichari bhavs, which are transient. They don't leave a permanent impression. My annoyance with my grandson-in-law yesterday is completely gone. There's no lingering impression from that at all. It arose, and then it affected the basic relationship, and then it went back into the basic relationship. So these emotions of the vyabhichari bhavs, they're not sthai. They don't stay. And we'll talk about this later with the secondary staibhavs, that the secondary staibhavs, many of them have names similar to the vyabhichari bhavs, but the difference is that the secondary staibhavs leave a permanent impression and the vyabhichari bhavs don't. They're just coming and going. So with the basic relationship, they mix with the basic relationship. Again, there also has to be a vibhav. That's not here in this slide, but there has to be a vibhav. I guess we could have it like, maybe put it over here. That is also hitting the rati or basic relationship. So again, using the ordinary example of myself with my grandson-in-law. So I have a basic connection of vatsalya with a little bit of sakya. The vibhav, which is not in this chart, is I'm sitting with him. He's the object. He's the vishayi of my feelings. My daughter was also there, so she has a similar relationship with him. She would be the Ashraya. The Udipana was him playing this music, which actually brought out my general feelings of parental and this emotion of annoyance. And when he changed the music, which was another Udipana, it brought out the Vyavichari of satisfaction. This mixed with the Rati and produced a state of sattva in the heart. I don't recall having any sattvic above, but I definitely had an anubhav. I said, oh, I like that new song very much. And then there was rasa. Then there was rasa. Okay. So the emotions or the feelings are not exactly voluntary or involuntary, but they're the cause of both the voluntary and the involuntary. I was brought up yesterday, we'll discuss at the end of the Southern Ocean, those in Prema who don't separate these. Some of the words used to describe the Vyavachari bhavs are going to sound like Sattvika bhavs or Anubhavs. So it's hard to sometimes separate out these different things. Okay, we have causes due to the, yes, to the Udipana. Yes, exactly. All right. I want you to study this because I'm going to ask you to write it from memory. I'm going to ask you to reproduce this from memory. So please study this. If you want to add your own vibhava, you can. I think you'd have to add vibhava. Why is it working? I think you'd have to put like vibhava over here with an arrow to the rati. So please study this. Remember that this sattva is not sattva gun. All righty. Have a couple minutes to write this from memory. One more minute. Okay, check. If you got it all right, please put all correct in the chat. If you got everything correct, please put all correct in the chat. And Anubhav and Sattvik Bhav, you could put in either place. And you could put Vyavichari Bhav and Sthai Bhav in either place. So you could switch this order, or you could switch. Why is this not working? So don't. Okay, you could switch this order and you could switch this order. So you could put Anubhavs here, you could put Sattvika Bhavs here, you could put Varichavi Bhavs here, you could put Sthai Bhav there. It doesn't matter which order these are in, and it doesn't matter which order these are in. Okay, anything you got wrong, please correct that on your paper. Okay, now we're going to take 5 minutes for you to please write, just 5 minutes. Please write in the chat your understanding of the process of the action of Vyavichari Bhav. Everybody, please do this. 5 minutes. The whole process in terms of rasa. How does Vyavichari Bhavs fit into the whole understanding of rasa? Veda Garba, excellent. Okay. Prem Prakash Haridas, very nice. Very nice. Pineshwari Lakshmi. Okay, very nice. Narada Rishi. Excellent. Achutosh Sharma. Everyone, please write something. Another 3 minutes. Excellent, excellent. Sarvani and Sri Vastuda, excellent. Excellent. Sri Devi Gaurangi. Sonia Raman, excellent. Anuragini Sudevi, very good. Anyone else? Another 2 minutes. Yes, very nice. Ramanarini. Okay, anyone else? So we're going to go over the list of emotions. Now, many of them appear negative and unwanted from an ordinary point of view. I think there's a concept, that in spiritual life, everything's going to be like, ooh, or ah. Okay, Ranga Rama, excellent. Sujana, very good. But they're all flavors of ecstasy. So they're the original pure spiritual emotions. In this world, even our so-called positive emotions are troublesome, right? Indra Swami talked about how he was standing in line at security in an airport, and somebody said to him, "You're too happy. People shouldn't be that happy." So even sometimes our material positive emotions can be troublesome. But we really want the full range of emotions. Just like whenever I have a doctor's appointment, they're trying to figure out if I'm depressed. So they'll ask, one of the standard questions nowadays is, have you felt sad? And they'll say, and your choices are usually all the time, a few days a week, and never. Those are your three choices. So either I have to be sad constantly, or I have to be sad for several days a week, or I can never be sad. And I'm always thinking, well, if I'm a living being, I'm going to feel some sadness sometimes. It's just part of being alive. And these are all actually relishable. All right, let's look at this list of the 33 Vyavichari or Sanchari bhavs. Okay. So I'd like to just open this up for a general discussion of how these could be material or spiritual. Any questions or any discussion? Death is not literal, it can be. So one description of death is the ecstasy that a devotee in the material world is feeling when they die thinking of Krishna. So that is one explanation of it, but the general explanation, like in the spiritual world and among the great devotees, is more that it's death-like symptoms. It's almost as if they have died. They feel like they're dying. We say like that, don't we, in our ordinary, oh my God, that was to die for. Oh, when I heard her sing, I was just dying. So, um, yeah, I once saw a little comedy sketch. This one comedian said someone had come up to him and said, I went to one of your performances and it was so good, I literally died. And he said to her, well, if you literally died, that would be a little difficult. Not quite sure how you're speaking to me now. So, yeah. Thoughts, questions, discussions.
Are we discussing each bhav separately or in
We will
general?
be. We will be after the break. We're going to go into more detail, but you're welcome to discuss any of them separately or together right now as you like. We will be looking at each one separately with examples after the break.
The disappointment could be the disappointment of the Vrajavasis when Krishna goes to Mathura, or it could be because Krishna goes to Dwarka, the Radharani is disappointed, or the people in Dwarka are disappointed when Krishna goes to Hastinapur.
Yes. And materially, what would disappointment mean?
You expect something else and it happens exactly contrary to that. That gives you a disappointment.
Right. Right. Okay. That's a very nice definition. I expected something and I got something the opposite or very different from what I expected. Yes. Um, Veda Garbha, intense emotion, I always figure that's kind of your miscellaneous catch-all phrase. Like most of us somewhere where we live have a place for just miscellaneous items that we don't know where to put them. I have a shelf for just it's uncategorized. Like I have a shelf for backpacks and luggage. I have a shelf for books. I have a drawer for deity paraphernalia. I have a drawer for like band-aids and creams and paracetamol and things like that. And then I have a shelf for this doesn't belong anywhere in particular. So I have like a steam cleaner there, air dryer, an extra bag that I use to bring my laundry to the laundry room, some cans of paint to touch up the walls. I have a bag of masks left from the COVID time. I have a whole bag of cloth masks. I have some things I could give as gifts to people. So none of those things are in the same category as any of the other things. Just a catch-all. So intense emotions. Well, there's 32 distinct Vyavichari bhavs, and you're feeling something intense that we can't categorize. We're going to throw it there. Fadeshwari Lakshmi.
The comment. I'm just thinking about just looking at this list. It's such a range, I want to say, of so many different things on one side. And especially the comment that you made that because they're connected to Krishna, they're all actually pleasurable, I want to say. Is that
Mm.
it? Whereas,
Yes,
and
yes.
obviously in material sense, they are not, they cause pain, obviously they cause lamentation or pain or whatever you want, however you want to define that. Where I don't know, it's just kind of awesome is not the right word. Weird, awesome, kind of incomprehensible, I guess I want to say.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Nardarishi writes in the chat, these emotions bring a lot of spice and entertainment to Krishna's Leelas, even though they may appear negative from a material point of view. And many may be there to enhance the reactions of the devotees. Yes, of course, some of these we would say are not negative. Remembrance, thoughtfulness, happiness, eagerness, alertness, humility. So some of them may be in a more positive, and the intense emotions covers anything. When I studied a system of communication called nonviolent communication that some of you may be familiar with, the GBC here where I staying, Bir Krishna Maharaj, he teaches nonviolent communication, and he's written a book called Vaishnav Compassion based on it. And there's a list, I think it's a larger list than this, although it doesn't have intoxication and death in it. It doesn't have all of these. It's a little different kind of a list, but it has a long list of all the different, and I don't think it's exhaustive, emotions. Often when we're kids, we just think, okay, good, bad, happy, sad, kind of thing. But there's actually this full range. Anyone else questions or thoughts? Envy, I thought envy doesn't have a place in this spiritual world. Yes, we talked about this. Actually, I talked about this in my Bhagavatam class on Sunday. So envy is a difficult one because Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that there's only two rules in the spiritual world, and that is have love, have prema, and don't have envy. Matsarya, don't have envy. So in this world, in our material world, envy is kind of the basic driver. We're here because we're envious of Krishna. We think that we would be a better God than God. We want to enjoy Krishna's potencies and energies separately from him. So if somebody wants to take your money, they're envious that you have more money than they have. That's what's driving them to take your money. So we want to take, like Ravana wants to take Sita from Ram and enjoy her separately. So that's what all conditioned souls are basically doing. I'm trying to take the material energy and or the spiritual energy, and I'm trying to enjoy it as if I were Krishna. And I'm envious of other living beings. I'm envious of, you know, somebody who's more intelligent than I am, someone who's stronger than I am, someone who's more beautiful than I am, someone who's got more money, someone who has more power, more influence. And I'm constantly envious of all the, why can't I be as beautiful as that person? Why is that person my age and they look so much nicer? Why is that person my age and they're so much healthier? You know, why does this person sell more books than I do? Why does this person have more money than I do? Why does this person have more influence than I do? You know, all of this is envy. You know, I want children and I don't have any. Why does this person get to have them? Why does this person get to have a good husband, good wife, and I don't have any? Why does my guru give more attention to this person than to me? That's all envy. And the essence of envy is that I want to take that away from the other jiva. Like my envy of Krishna is I want to take away that Krishna's the controller and the enjoyer. I want to be the controller and the enjoyer. I want to control nature. I want to be Hiranyakashipu with all the mystic powers, and I can just control nature. And I want to be the
And envy
enjoyer.
has a wonderful definition. And
You like
envy has
that?
a wonderful definition which I like, so I'm just sharing.
What's that? Sure, sure.
I like what you have. I like what you have, but I don't like that you have it.
Whoa, I like that. I like what you have, but I don't like that you have it. Or you can have it, but I want more. So sometimes envy is I don't want you to have any. You know, I want all the money, I want all the beauty, I want all the strength. Generally, we're not quite that bad. Generally, you can have it as long as I can have more. So, you can have an attractive spouse as long as mine is more attractive. You can have intelligence as long as I have more intelligence. You can have money as long as I have more money. And so either I want it instead of you. Yeah, I like what you have, but I don't like that you have it. Yes. So there is a malice involved in envy where I'm wishing you ill in some way. I'm wanting you to lose what you have, or I'm wanting to have you be diminished. I mean, I remember reading how the people who win, some of the people who win silver and bronze medals in the Olympics are disappointed. Like you're the second or third best athlete in the world, and that's not good enough. You've got to be the gold. So spiritually, I mean, Janma Yasya Yataha, everything has to come from something in the spiritual. We can't have anything materially that has no original component spiritually. So there has to be some component. So the thing that looks like envy or even malice is where is this friendly competition that goes on. So I always give the mundane example of I've part of some of my family members really like tennis. So whenever I visit them, they talk to me about tennis, which is why I know something about tennis. Uh, so there's these sisters, Serena and Venus Williams, who are both top tennis stars, but they're sisters. And sometimes they play against each other. So they love each other. They want each other to win, but they also want themselves to win. And if they win and the other sister loses, that they like that. But they're also happy if their sister wins. So I think we all have this experience playing games with family and friends. So we're playing some kind of game, a board game or a physical game or something with our family and friends, and we're trying to win. We want them to lose. Yes, like Krishna team and Balaram team, we want them to lose. We actively want them to lose. We actively want to win. In fact, if we didn't actively want to win, it would be a terrible game. Now, who wants to play a game against somebody who doesn't want to win? There's no fun. It's only fun if we both want to win. However, if we're playing with people that we love, we're also happy if they win. There's some disappointment. Ah, man, I can't believe you won the game again. Sheesh. Whoa. Or I'm going to take this move and I'm going to push your piece back 10 squares. That looks like envy. It looks like envy. It looks like malice. I landed on this square. You move back 10 squares. You lose your turn. I think the only time I play games is when I'm hanging out with my grandkids. I'm not much of a game player of any kind of games. But yeah, we have some delight in taking away our opponent's advantage. So that's envy and malice, but it's not because it's in the context of a loving relationship, and it actually increases rasa. It increases rasa when I'm playing a game with my kids or my grandkids or my friends, and they are showing some malice and envy towards me, and I'm showing some malice and envy toward them. They're trying to make me lose. I'm trying to make them lose. But it actually increases rasa because there isn't actually any malice. It's all on the platform of love. It's all on the platform of friendship love or parental love, or I guess if it's husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend playing, it's on the platform of romantic love. And we see this kind of spiritual, tasty envy and malice manifest in many of Krishna's Leelas, where the gopis are trying to get the rival gopis not to be with Krishna and so forth. Yes, it's a healthy competition. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And Prabhupada encouraged this. Okay, a couple more things, then we're going to do a breakout groups to discuss this. And the reason I'm going to do a breakout groups is because only some of you participate when I do a plenary. How does concealment work? So this is related, of course, to the concealment of like the sattvic bhavs, which we talked about yesterday. So, the gopis are around their superiors and they're trying to conceal their feelings for Krishna, for example. Okay, yeah, some of these look like they're tamagun because sattva, rajas, and tamas, again, have their parallels spiritually, but they're all above sattva because sattva, rajas, and tamas in this world are all me-centered. They're all, how can I be an enjoyer? How can I be the center? Whereas spiritually, it's all Krishna is the center. Okay, so we're going to have a breakout group where I'd like you to discuss these same things in the breakout group. So I want you to look at how these emotions can be either a spiritual experience or a material experience. So that's the main thing I want you to focus on is how can they be a material experience or a spiritual experience. And we're going to have 10 minutes. All right, I have to check the box first. So how can these be either, what's the difference? The main thing I want to discuss is what's the difference? What makes these Vyavichari bhavs either spiritual or material? That's the main thing I want you to talk about. All right, Krishna, I hope you had a good break. Okay, now we're going to go through everything one at a time. So, disappointment. And for each of these, Srila Rupa Goswami is going to give the causes, the symptoms, and an example. Causes, symptoms, and example. And we will have a breakout of this where you can bring up any of these that you particularly want to discuss. So if there's any of these that you especially want to discuss, please make a note. So again, for each of those, causes, symptoms, and example. Causes of disappointment. This is not exhaustive. It's not that this is the only causes or the only symptoms. Great sorrow, separation, hatred, or worrying about doing what one should not be done or not doing what should be done. Symptoms, worry, tears, change of color, feeling of lack of qualities, dainyam, and sighing. Disappointment from sorrow. Nanda Maharaj tells Yasoda Devi that they should go into the Yamuna that Kaliya had poisoned and die when Krishna appeared drowned. So Nanda and Yasoda felt they must be very sinful for Krishna to die in this way. And if they died in the Yamuna, that would be a kind of atonement. Disappointment from separation. Radharani is saying, if I can't see Krishna, I'd rather be blind. If I can't hear Krishna, I'd rather be deaf. Subal is saying, if Krishna's going to leave, I'm going to leave. Disappointment from anger. When Satyabhama heard Narada glorifying Rukmini, she was disappointed out of anger. Disappointment from lamentation. Thinking, oh, my life has been spoiled by material attachment. And this is Srila Goswami's quoting from Bhagavatam 10:51-47. So just a little note that Bharat Muni lists these Vyavichari Bhavs in a certain order, so Srila Goswami is following that. And materially, disappointment is inauspicious, but it's certainly part of neutral love of God, and it preserves love. I'm going to get my other sweater. It's very cold here. Okay, lamentation causes failure to attain one's desired object, failure to accomplish a task, from an occurrence of a disaster, or from committing an offense. So symptoms: worry, searching for a means of accomplishing, searching for assistance, weeping, moaning, heavy breathing, change of color, and drying of the mouth. These, as you notice, are anubhavs and sattvika bhavs. Remember, we talked about in the beginning how when the Vyavichari bhavs hit the sthai bhavs, then they're going to produce anubhavs and sattvika bhavs. So the symptoms are anubhavs and sattvika bhavs. Change of color is a sattvika bhav. Weeping is a sattvika bhav. Can be an anubhav if it's very loud. Lamentation from not getting one's desired object. For want of any taste for you, I did not advance myself in Krishna consciousness. Waking up before being able to offer flowers in a dream. I was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had that kind of lamentation from impending disaster. When Nandamar saw that Krishna was going to be attacked by the elephant, he lamented, why did I bring him to Mathura? From committing an offense, from Brahma trying to show his power by stealing the boys and calves, Akrura from taking the Shamantaka jewel. Okay, we have humility, causes sorrow, fear, or offense, and symptoms, words of flattery, feebleness of the heart, impurity of the heart, distressed thoughts, and inactivity. So from sorrow, Muchakunda thinking of his past bad deeds and asking for shelter. This is from 10:51-57. Humility from fear, Ujjara being willing to die and wanting her unborn child to be saved from Asvatthama's Brahmastra. This is Bhagavatam 1:8-10. Humility from committing of offense, Brahma asking to be excused from stealing the boys and calves, Bhagavatam 10:14-10. Humility from shame, when Krishna stole all the garments from the gopis, they felt humility and shame at their nakedness, from Bhagavatam 10:22-14. Okay, so we have some lack of energy, which can also be called depression or guilt, or a decrease in ojas. Ojas is like one's effulgence. By the way, these Vyavichari Bhavs are very difficult to translate. Srila Prabhupada gives some translations. David Haberman gives some translations. Bhanu Swami, in his translation, just doesn't translate them. He just lists the Sanskrit words without translating them. You've got to kind of figure out what they are. And in some study guides, you'll find different translations. So just keep in mind that these translations are not always expressing the Sanskrit. Causes: physical exertion, mental activity, or sexual activity. Symptoms: trembling, indecision, change of color, becoming thin, and looking around anxiously. Again, all the symptoms are anubhavs or sattvika bhavs. Lack of energy, depressed, and guilt from physical exertion. Radha was churning yogurt for Krishna and got too tired to move her limbs. Radha going to an inaccessible forest to make Krishna a special garland and becoming exhausted. From mental anxieties, Mother Yasoda worrying about Krishna. Are there any demons? Why is he late? From romance, Krishna raised Radha very carefully from the bed. They came to the veranda of the house that shined with moonlight. Okay, fatigue. Causes: losing the way, dancing, or amorous activity. Symptoms: sleep, perspiration, rubbing the body, yawning, and heavy breathing. So from losing the way, when Yasoda is chasing Krishna in the yard, she becomes fatigued. She also becomes fatigued when she's tying him up, of course. From dancing, Baladev and the cowherd boys are dancing in a festival by the river. They're also perspiring. From romance, this is in the rasa dance. We read how Krishna wipes the perspiration from the faces of the gopis. So the perspiration is a sattvic above. So they're having their rasa dancing, they get tired, they perspire as a sattvic above. Okay, intoxication, it can also be translated as rapture that destroys discriminatory power. The causes are actual intoxication and love. Symptoms are stumbling while walking, uncoordinated movements of the limbs, and uncoordinated speaking. The eyes roll, the face becomes red. Face becoming red, of course, is a sattvic above. The others are all anubhavs. So from intoxication, Balaram speaking about smashing the universe and how the whole world is trembling. Prabhupada comments in the Nectar devotion that when a person becomes intoxicated, a superior person goes to sleep, the second best person laughs and sings, and the lowest person shouts, uses rough words, and weeps. Intoxication from love. So Radha, in the rapture of new love, gazing at Krishna in front of her, sometimes frowns, sometimes wanders about, sometimes laughs, sometimes weeps, sometimes covers her face, sometimes prattles. That means just talking on and on without any purpose. Sometimes repeatedly offers respects to her friends. Pride. Now we could also say there's no pride in the spiritual world, but there is a spiritual origin of pride. So here we have the causes: one's own good fortune, youthful beauty, one's good qualities, taking shelter of the Lord, attaining one's object of love. The symptoms: treating others with contempt. Again, this is a loving thing. There's no actual malice. Joking words, not giving answers by one's own choice, showing off one's body, concealing one's intentions, and not hearing others' words. Pride from good fortune. Bilvamangala Thakur says, "Is it really astonishing if you can give up holding my hand? I will consider you a real man if you can take yourself from my heart." How touching. All right, Krishna, you can't get out of my heart. I'm holding on to you. Pride from beauty. Radharani's friend telling Krishna that Radha is too beautiful to even look at him when he has enjoyed and left so many other women. So this Radharani's friend has pride in Srimati Radharani. You've had so many other women. My friend Radharani's too beautiful to even look at you. From good qualities, Radha noting that Krishna put her garland to his heart, although his cowherd friends made expert garlands for him. So he had so many garlands from his friends, but the one that Radha made, he put to his heart. And she's like, yes, Krishna likes my garland. Pride from taking shelter of the Lord. Even devotees who sometimes fall are still protected and go over the heads of their enemies. What a nice master I have. This is from 10.2.33, Prayers of the Demigods. Pride from attaining one's desired object. Having achieved Krishna, one weaver in Mathura had no interest in meditation on the Lord of Vaikuntha. He's like, why should I bother to meditate on Narayan? I've got Krishna. Woohoo! Why would I care about anything else? Krishna likes that kind of pride. Whoa, I've got Krishna. Why do I need to care about anything else? Doubt or apprehension causes committing theft, offense, or others' cruelty, symptoms drying of the mouth, change of complexion, glancing in all directions, and hiding oneself. So changing complexions is a sattvika bhav, the others are anubhavs. From theft, after stealing the calves and cowherd boys out of pride, Brahma, out of great apprehension, glanced with his 8 eyes in 8 directions. That must be something to see. Akrura thought, I have hidden the Shamataka jewel, which gives wealth, and fled away in anxiety because of this despicable act. Until today, happiness has disappeared from my heart. Doubt, apprehension from offense. So Indra was advised to stop pouring rain and to surrender completely to Krishna. And he wasn't sure, should I do this? From seeing others' cruelty, thinking of Krishna living in Mathura, surrounded by the ferocious demons of Kamsa, his friends worry about harm that cannot actually come to him. So they're worried he's going to be hurt. And just a note that in women, this doubt or apprehension can turn into fear. Terror or apprehension, trasa, causes lightning, fearful creatures, or loud sounds, symptoms, grasping nearby objects for support, hair standing on end, quivers, become paralyzed, and wandered about. So hair standing on end, quivering, and becoming paralyzed are sattvika bhavs. The others are anubhavs. Okay, terror, apprehension. Note, if there is a disturbance of the mind and shaking of the limbs without any consideration or thought, it is called trasa. Fear or bhaya arises after consideration. So it's just terror. There's no thought. Whereas bhaya, you're thinking first, oh, there's this problem, and then you become afraid. So trasa is just pure fear without thought. This is from 2:458, the verse, and Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary. Okay, from lightning. So, thinking of the song, thunder, lightning, ice is falling too, heavy winds are blowing, what shall we do? So, this is the residents of Vrindavan in the Govardhan Lila. They ask Krishna to protect them from the lightning, from dangerous creatures. When Vrishashura, this is also called Aristasura, when he approached, some of the gopis began to tremble, suddenly embracing a tamal tree, mistaking it for Krishna, they could not move. So embracing the tamal tree is anubhav, trembling and paralysis are sattvika bhavs. From scary sounds. So Yasoda heard the howling of wolves, and so she was terrified, and so she didn't let Krishna out of her sight for a few days. Intense emotion, mental confusion. So again, this is kind of a catch-all, but it also means mental confusion. So causes dear things, detested objects, fire, wind, rain, calamity, elephants, or enemies, symptoms. In Avega, that's the Sanskrit word for this, arising from dear objects. Standing of hair on end, words of affection, fickleness, and rising to one's feet. In Avega, arising from detested objects, falling on the ground, shouting, and wandering about. So this intense emotion or mental confusion can arise from both dear objects and detested objects. So dear things, detested objects, fire, wind, rain, calamity, elephants, or enemies, and the symptoms, variety of symptoms depending on the cause. Examples, mental confusion from a dear object. When Krishna returned from the forest of Vrindavan, Mother Yasoda was so emotional from seeing her son that milk began to flow from her breast. Of course, that is a sattvika bhav. From hearing, so this was from seeing, a dear object. Here we have the wives of the Brahmanas from hearing about a dear object. So when they heard that Krishna was nearby, they became completely confused. They didn't say anything, like, took them a while to figure out what to do. They were so overwhelmed with emotion. And here from seeing something detestable, Yasoda seeing Krishna between the fallen Arjuna trees. Seeing Krishna on the chest of Putana, Yasoda wailed and began wandering about in confusion. Intense emotion and mental confusion from fire. Of course, there's 2 forest fires in Vrindavan, noted in the Bhagavatam. So confusion from the fire, from wind. Mother Yasoda was very disturbed from Trinavarta, from rain. So the people and animals going to Govinda for shelter when Indra sent rain. Also, the elders telling Krishna not to go out in the hail. So all these slides are summaries. So in the Bhaktiyoga Summary to Sindhu, you have often a more expanded story. From calamity. So when Krishna was chastising Kaliya in the waters of the Yamuna, there were all these bad omens, and the residents of Vrindavan felt many intense emotions. From elephants and wicked animals. So the women of Mathura became very confused, seeing Kuvalaya Pita. Krishna reassures his mother that he can kill Keshi. From enemies, Yasoda's friends are worried that Sankachuta is going to kill Krishna. From enemies, the princes were upset at Krishna's kidnapping Rukmini. Srila Rupa Goswami includes this, but this is the feeling that the princes had was a semblance and a boss of Vyavachari Bhav, which we'll talk about those tomorrow, in the Lord's enemy, but the devotees are happy. The devotees are happy that the other princes were all confused. They're like, yes, let the other princes be confused. Madness causes confused understanding caused by extreme bliss, calamity, or separation. Symptoms: laughing, dancing, singing, useless actions, prattling, means talking on and on with nothing, running, shouting, performing activities opposite to what's normally performed. So calamity. When Krishna entered the lake of Kaliya, Yasoda became insane and, thinking the animals were knowers of mantras, folded her hands and began offering them respects, thinking the trees were doctors. She asked them for a medicine to counteract the poison. Madness from separation. The gopis also asking the trees and the plants, where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? This is one I like. This particular example, Srila Prabhupada gives in a letter, I think, to Trey Rishi Prabhu, where Prabhupada is saying there's no utopia. And he's saying that even the residents of Vrindavan make mistakes, even Krishna. So in such bliss, Radharani starts churning an empty yogurt pot. And when Krishna saw this, he tried to milk a bull. So crazy. What are you doing milking a bull? They're crazy in love. Forgetfulness. Causes of almost total lack of consciousness arising from disturbance of the dhatus. Dhatus are the coverings of the body due to grief. Symptoms: falling on the ground, running about, pain in the limbs, confusion, shaking of the body, foaming at the mouth, flailing the arms, and shouting. Forgetfulness. Srimati Radharani says, Yasoda, in separation from you for a long time, is foaming at the mouth. Her arms are moving about like waves in the ocean. She sometimes whirls about, sometimes rolls on the ground, makes sounds, and sometimes remains motionless. Now there's an abbas of forgetfulness in demons. Hearing that you killed Kamsa, Kamsa's close friends wander about on the beach, whirling about like wheels, and cannot stop. From their mouths foam flows in great quantities, and their arms flail about. Not so easy to find pictures of demons in forgetfulness. Disease. Causes: fever generated from extreme sorrow at hearing of contempt for Krishna by the demons, or from separation. Causes are an emotional state rather than disturbance of the dhatus, which is physical. Symptoms: paralysis, slackness of the limbs, heavy breathing, anxiety, and fatigue. Example, devotees in Vraja in separation are burning and remain motionless. Their nostrils quiver because of heavy breathing, and they roll on the ground. So that completes chapter 29. We're going to chapter 30. Okay, so this is Srila Rupa Goswami listing 23 emotional experiences that come from and flavor a devotee's basic relationship with Krishna. This chapter covers the second 20. So we had the first 13, now we have the second 20. Confusion or a complete lack of awareness. This is an internal action. Causes joy, separation, fear, or lamentation. Symptoms: falling on the ground, absence of sense perceptions, wandering around, and inactivity. Confusion from joy. This is from 10:12:44 in Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami, remembering subject matters about Krishna, lost contact with the actions of his senses. Thereafter, with great difficulty, he revived his external sensory perception and began to speak to Maharaj Parikshit about Krishna Katha. Confusion from joy. When the women of Rajas saw Krishna alone in Kurukshetra, they were confused out of joy. Separation. Radharani went to the bank of Jamuna and saw a cottage wherein she and Krishna had experienced many loving pleasures, and she became very dizzy. Confusion from fear. Arjuna didn't even know that he dropped his bow while seeing the universal form. Confusion from despair. When the cowherd boy saw that Bakasura had opened his mouth to swallow Krishna. Okay, a little note that in confusion, devotees lose awareness of objects, including their own bodies, but awareness of Krishna never disappears. And Srila Jiva Goswami comments, the devotees are still conscious of Krishna because without him as their shelter, their various emotional states cannot exist. So in other words, they have Krishna as the Vishayi. Krishna is the object of their Staibhav. Without the Staibhav, these Vyabhichari Bhavs, they're coming from the Staibhav, going back into the Staibhav. So without an awareness of Krishna and their Staibhav, you're not going to have these Vyabhichari Bhavs. So they forget themselves, they forget the objects, they forget everything, but they don't forget Krishna. Okay, death. Causes: grief, sickness, fear, beating, or exhaustion. Symptoms: unclear speaking, change of bodily color, feeble breathing, and hiccups. So note regarding demons. So Putana's symptoms while dying are not the same as the Mriti Vyavicari Bhav, which appears in devotees. So another note on death. The emotional state just prior to death is generally called Mriti. However, some say that Mriti should be considered only as an external similarity to death and Anubhav. So here's a death example. These are persons who died at Mathura. They had a slight breathing exhilaration. Their eyes were wide open. Colors of their bodies changed, and they began to utter the holy name of Krishna. So this is literal death in this world of somebody who's absorbed in Krishna. Laziness causes satisfaction or fatigue. Symptoms: lack of enthusiasm to do activities even though one has the ability to do them, stretching the limbs, yawning, disgust with work, rubbing the eyes, lying down, fondness for sitting down, exhaustion, and sleep. From satisfaction, the Brahmanas say to Nanda Maharaj at the Govardhan festival, we have become so satisfied that we cannot even give blessings. They said, we're not going to circumambulate the hill. My good friend Rukmini, Ruchiradatta, not my god sister Rukmini, the co-author of Career Dharma, Rukmini, she and I like to joke that we're going to start the Lazy Bava Club, but we're going to be so lazy that we're just going to start the club and then we're not going to do anything more. No, we're going to have this Lazy Bava Club from satisfaction. Laziness from fatigue. Krishna talks about how Subal is tired from arm wrestling and should not be asked to mock fight for a while. Inertness causes hearing or seeing desirable or undesirable things, or from separation. Symptoms: absence of the ability to decide anything, blinking of the eyes, silence, and forgetfulness. So a little note: inertness occurs previous to and following moha, an inoperative mind or confusion. So there's inertness, then moha, or moha, then inertness. Inertness from hearing desirable things. The calves heard Krishna's flute. They forgot to drink milk. Their eyes seemed to be embracing Krishna, and there were tears in their eyes. So that's from hearing desirable things. Now we have hearing something undesirable. So when a gopi leader, Lakshmana, heard Krishna call the name of another girl, she became inert. So from seeing something favorable, from seeing the object of one's desire, Yudhisthira respectfully brought Govinda to his personal quarters. The king was so overcome with joy he could not remember all the rituals of worship. Inertness from seeing something undesirable. When Krishna was going to Mathura, the gopis stood there stunned and did not move. Of course, stunned is a sattvic bhav. Inertness from separation. Krishna's friends, pained by long separation, remain on this earth like the deities of neglectful brahmanas, which are without ornaments, wearing soiled clothes, which is falling off, with limbs dirty and thin. My dear friends, do not be a neglectful brahmana. If you have deities in your home, take care of them. Prabhupada writes here in Nectar Devotion that the cloth should be changed daily. The deities should have ornaments. Take care of your Lord if you're going to have them. Okay, bashfulness, which is the opposite of audacity. So causes from just meeting one's lover, performing forbidden acts, or from praise or neglect. Symptoms: silence, anxiety, covering the head, writing on the ground, and hanging the head. So from meeting Krishna for the first time. Radharani, if you have sold an elephant, a metaphor for your beauty, to Govinda, you can give up your bashfulness and also sell him the gold for the elephant. In other words, look at him. From forbidden acts, Krishna said, all right, Indra, you can take this parijata flower, otherwise you will not be able to show your face before your wife, Sachi. Bashfulness from praise. When Krishna praised Uddhava, listing all of his good qualities, Uddhava lowered his head. Bashfulness from neglect. Krishna's wife Satya says, Raivataka mountain is always glorious with spring flowers. How can I look upon that mountain when I have lost the affection of Krishna, though once I was most dear to him? That's something I should fix. Okay. Concealment. Someone asked me about this. Desiring to conceal one's anubhavas because of internal feelings of lowness. Symptoms: hiding one's limbs so others will think one is something else, glancing elsewhere, useless actions, and clever use of words. From deceit, Krishna had awakened romantic desires within the gopis. They honored him by glancing at him with playful smiles, gesturing amorously with their eyebrows, and massaging his hands and feet as they held them in their laps. Even while worshiping him, however, they felt somewhat angry, which they concealed, and thus they spoke to him. Concealment because of mildness. Rukmini did not show her internal anger when Krishna planted the parijata tree in Satyabhama's courtyard. Concealment from bashfulness. The queens of Dwarka wanted to embrace Krishna, but out of shyness, they did so in their minds and then sent their sons, but they could not stop crying. Concealment from mixed deceit and bashfulness. Will a respectable woman desire such a snake among cowherds? Remembering him, the hairs of my body are standing on end out of fear. So it's not actually fear. It's actually desire, but they're trying to conceal that. Concealment by good qualities. Radharani hid her loving affection for Krishna using her self-control. Due to respect. Krishna and the cowherd boys were joking. Krishna's servant Patri started to enjoy the jokes, but remembering that he is in servitude, he bowed with respect and stifled his smiling. That's a very interesting example showing how we can appreciate others' rasa, but it's not something that we want. he could appreciate the rasa of friendship, but he's like, no, 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 I don't want that. I don't want to be Krishna's friend. I want to be Krishna's servant. Remembrance, strict practice or seeing similar objects. Symptoms, shaking the head and moving the brows. From seeing a familiar object, when Radha saw a dark cloud, she remembered Krishna and experienced the force of love. From practice, devotees who are constantly thinking of the lotus feet of Krishna, even if they are momentarily inattentive, will see the figure of Krishna appearing within their hearts. Argumentativeness causes arriving at a conclusion based on error, doubt, or influence. Symptoms, moving the brows and moving the head and fingers. From inference, Krishna, not noticing that his peacock feather had fallen or that someone was offering a garland, led Madhumangala to conclude that Krishna was attracted to Radharani. So this is Madhumangala's argumentativeness from inference. Here's argumentativeness. Do you think that this walking personality is a tamal tree? How is it possible for a tree to walk and be so beautiful? Then this personality might be a cloud. But if he's a cloud, then where is the beautiful moon within? It must be Mukunda who's walking on Govardhan Hill. Anxiety, pondering, not attaining a desired object or from attaining an undesired object. Symptoms, heavy breathing, hanging the head, writing on the ground, change of color, sleeplessness, prattle, and fever. From not attaining the desired object, when Krishna asked all the gopis to go back to their homes. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, we gave up shyness for love, but Krishna is not under our control, so why give up our shyness? That was their pondering. From not attaining the desired object, Yasoda is very anxious because Krishna has not returned home, and with great difficulty, she passed the evening constantly sitting on the balcony in anxiety and pondering. From achieving something undesirable, this is when Krishna's in Mathura. Nanda Maharaj said, my dear Yasoda, don't be worried. Please dry your beautiful face. There's no need for you to breathe so hotly. I will go immediately with Akrura to the palace of Kamsa and get your son back for you. So this is pondering, thoughtfulness, consulting scripture to reach a conclusion. So I like doing this in this world, so I'm happy I can do it. In the spiritual world, symptoms, performing necessary actions after cutting doubts and illusions, giving instructions to students and defeating others' arguments and opposite conclusions. So I'm like, yeah, I can do this in the spiritual world. Example, when one studies the Purana very scrutinizingly, he can see that ultimately Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Another example, Rukmini Devi answering Krishna when he was teasing her, giving conclusions based on the scriptures and the opinions of sages about his glories. Steadiness of heart causes attaining realization of the Lord, absence of suffering, attaining realization of the Lord, and realizing prema with the Lord. Symptoms, no lamentation for things not attained or for things which have disappeared. Endurance from realization. Example, with realization of the Lord, I can live without clothes, just begging food and sleeping on the ground. I do not care even for the government. Endurance from lack of suffering. Nandamar says, our cowsheds have become the playground of Lakshmi, and more than 100,000 billion cows are running around. That's probably hyperbole. A divine child is playing in the house. I am fully satisfied with the happiness of family life. Endurance from prema. Absorbed in the Lord's pastimes, my mind is not aware of artha, dharma, karma, and moksha, which are now worthless, like grass. Happiness causes seeing or attaining one's desired object. Symptoms, standing of hair on end, perspiration, tears, glowing face, confusion, insanity, indecision, and fainting, which are other Vyavichari bhavs, and we'll be talking about that tomorrow, one Vyavichari bhav causing another. Example, Krishna put his arm on a gopi's shoulder. When she smelled his natural fragrance mixed with sandalwood, she kissed him in joy. When Akrura saw Krishna and Balaram, his lotus face blossomed with joy, and all his hair stood on end. Two examples of happiness. Eagerness, inability to tolerate the passing of time. We could also call this impatience. Causes desire to see or attain a desired object. Symptoms, drying of the mouth, haste, pondering, which is another Vyabhichari bhav, and prominence of breathing. Eagerness or desire to see one's cherished object. The city women eager to see Krishna when he arrived, that they left husbands and duties and went into the street not dressed properly. Radharani, captive by Krishna's flute, ran into the forest. The gopis tried to prolong their conversation with Krishna by joking, but he pretended to get flowers to enter a grove quickly to meet his beloved. Violence and ferocity causes offenses and harsh words. Symptoms, killing, binding, shaking the head, shouting loudly, and beating. So, violence and ferocity from an offense to Krishna. Garuda says, by my power the snakes have abortions, but in my presence Kaliya is offending my master. I want to offer him to the fire of my stomach, but I'm afraid of Krishna's anger. Violence from harsh words against Krishna. Sahadev, I will place with more force than the punishment of Yama my left foot on the head of that person who cannot tolerate the first worship of Krishna. Baladev being angry at the Kurus when they insulted Krishna while discussing the arrest of Shamba, and he violently started pulling Hastinapur into the Ganges. Haughtiness causes contempt or insult. Symptoms, intolerance, perspiration, shaking the head, change of color, pondering, which is again Vyabhichari bhav, looking for methods, shouting, turning away, and beating. So from contempt, Jatila to Krishna, you cannot disturb my daughter-in-law who is sitting by my side. Haughtiness from disrespect. A gopi complains to Krishna that he is disrespectful for saying the name of a rival gopi leader in the presence of her opposing party. So Srila Prabhupada's translation is a little different. Srila Rupa Goswami says that the speaker is Padma, Chandravali's closest friend. Haughtiness from being cheated. When all the gopis looked for Krishna in the Vrindavan forest, they accused him of being a cheater for leaving them. Envy from others, increase of good fortune or good qualities. Symptoms, malice, disrespect, insult, fault-finding, speaking ill of others, casting evil glances, and moving the eyebrows. Again, we talked about this already. This is not actual malice or envy. This is really a friendly competition. Envy from others, increase in good fortune. Do not be proud because Krishna has decorated your forehead. He may be attracted by some other beautiful girl. It appears that Krishna was not too disturbed in painting it. Otherwise, he could have not painted such exact lines. Another example, these footprints of that special gopi greatly disturb us. Of all the gopis, she alone was taken away to a secluded place where she is enjoying the lips of Krishna. Another example, and someone brought this up actually in the earlier discussion. Balaram's team thinks itself strong and able to defeat our team with Krishna on our side, but where is there anyone weaker than Balaram's team in the world? Impudence causes inconsiderateness of the heart arising from attraction or repulsion. Symptoms, lack of judgment, rough words, and careless actions. Impudence from attachment, where Rukmini asked Krishna to kidnap her. Impudence from hatred, may the flute, which loosens the cords tying the clothing of the beautiful women, enter the ocean on the waves of the Yamuna. Dizziness or drowsiness, which again is causing sattvic bhavs and other vyabhichari bhavs. Causes pondering, lack of energy, natural tendency, and fatigue. Symptoms, suspension of external awareness, rubbing the limbs, yawning, inaction, heavy breathing, and closing the eyes. Example, when Mother Yasoda did not hear the flute in the evening, that would indicate Krishna's returning home. When Yasoda had tied Krishna up, she became fatigued. The residents of Raja who would sleep in their courtyards in fearlessness. This is from a natural urge. And from fatigue, Vishaka, tinged with the colors from Krishna's cosmetics, tired after enjoyment, is sleeping on the chest of Krishna. Now, a note that the stage of Nidra is a state of concentration on the Lord found in the highest devotees. It is not a material state of sleep. This is a state beyond the modes. It is the state just previous to extinguishing of consciousness, in which there is the appearance of Krishna without any particular pastimes. So it's a particular state of awareness. Sleepiness, dreaming, causes sleep in which there are various thoughts and the experience of objects, symptoms, absence of the functioning of the external senses, heavy breathing, closing the eyes. Example, Baladev began to talk in his sleep. Krishna, please immediately dispose of the stubborn pride of the Kaliya serpent. Hearing this, the Yadus laughed. Then, yawning so hard as to make ripples on his abdomen, Balaram returned to sleep. Alertness causes destruction of ignorance, destruction of illusion, and destruction of sleep. Symptoms, enlightenment, appearance of knowledge. From destruction of influence, Srila Jiva Goswami references the Brahmabhuta Prasanatmam verse from the Bhagavad Gita in his commentary on 2.4.18. I have already conquered the mode of ignorance, and I am now on the platform of transcendental knowledge. Therefore, I shall be engaged only in searching after the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In general, destruction of illusion. When illusion is destroyed by the sound, fragrance, touch, and taste of the Lord, there is alertness. In this state, the eyes are open, hairs stand on end, there is rising from the ground. Alertness from the destruction of illusion by the sound of the Lord. When Radharani saw Krishna, she became full of happiness. All her limbs were stunned. When Lalita whispered the holy name of Krishna, Radharani opened her eyes in alertness. The smell of the Lord. When Krishna once disappeared as a joke, Radha lost control of her limbs, her color, and her breath. She fell on the earth. When she smelled the fragrance of Krishna's forest garland, her hair stood on end, and she rose up in alertness. By the touch. Whose touch is this, which is soft, blissful, and all-conquering? The touch of that hand completely removed with force my fainting condition, which gave me so much suffering. Alertness from breaking sleep through a dream. Oh, Krishna, stop pulling the edge of my cloth, otherwise I will tell Jatila. Saying this in a dream, Radha woke up. Seeing the elders, she became bashful. Alertness from naturally awaking from sleep. A messenger from Krishna came to Radharani while she was sleeping, and she immediately awakened. Alertness by sound. When Krishna began to blow on his flute, all the gopis immediately got up from their sleep. Alertness by sound. The gopi's sleeping condition is compared to the white swans, and the sound of Krishna's flute is compared to a black wasp. When Krishna's flute sounded, the white swans, which represent the sleeping condition of the gopis, were immediately vanquished, and the black wasp sound of the flute began to enjoy the lotus flower of the gopis' beauty. All right, so we're going to have breakout rooms. Please discuss your whichever Vyavichari Bhavs you particularly found interesting, and maybe some other examples in the Shastra of where you can find them. I hope you all enjoyed that. Anything good in this presentation is from Srila Prabhupada, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Jiva Goswami, all of our acharyas in the Shastra. Anything wrong in this presentation is my error. I hope that you were able to take the good and you can correct or leave aside the bad. Krishna willing, we'll be seeing you tomorrow to discuss the rest of Vyavichari Bhav, how the Vyavichari Bhavs interact with each other, semblance of them, and so forth.